What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Musings podcast studio. I am excited to be joined today by the Citrus Goldfish, Miss Kimberly. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you. Happy to be
Awesome.
here.
Happy to have you on here. I appreciate you making the time.
Oh, yeah. So it was a treat to be asked to interview or come on your podcast. Pretty cool.
Definitely. I've been a fan of your art, so I wanted to make sure to get you on.
Well, likewise, I've been a huge fan of yours as well. So this
Thank you.
was pretty rad
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
And a lot of crossover between our hobbies and our things we enjoy because you also train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I do. I'm a brown belt at Paragon Santa Maria under Lance Glenn.
Yes, my old arch rival, Lance Glenn. That's so cool. We were chatting a little bit before, I can't give the audience the benefit of knowing what we were talking about before the podcast started, but we were chatting because Kimberly's instructor friend Lance Glenn is somebody I faced in a jiu-jitsu competition in the finals many moons ago. And gosh, I can't remember what exactly his weight was at the time. I think he was probably
Ooh.
only like 170, 165-ish, somewhere in there.
He's probably around 170. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, back then I was not as big as I am now, but I was still big. I was probably like 270 in that match.
The comparison is pretty comical in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good way, like
And
for an
he's
open, right?
open weight division, yeah, and he's slightly
Yeah,
shorter than me, I would
he
say.
is. He's a short man. I mean, my height. He's my height. We're
There
about
you
five
go.
eight, 5'7".
Yeah, and I'm 6'5", so that's a
Yeah,
little bit of a compare and contrast, right? But yeah,
yeah.
he gave me a hell of a finals match, man. It was right down to the wire. I think I scored some points right at the end and edged it out. Like, I just always had such admiration for him being a scrapper and getting in there and
Uh,
not caring that it was open weight.
no, he doesn't care. He is definitely a scrapper. He loves and lives for the scraps.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that.
Well, in Paragon, I mean, long line of scrappers come from
Oh
that
yeah,
team.
definitely
We've
between
got Frangina, we got Jeff Glover,
Jeff.
Bill the Grill
Bill,
Cooper,
yeah, all of them trained with.
monst
Luckily, I'm fortunate to train with all of them too. But all of them are scrappers. Like,
all monsters.
yeah, definitely great guys too. All of them.
Yes, yes. So safe to say you've had to up, up your scrappiness as a result of training with such individuals.
I definitely try my best to give back as much scrap as they give me. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, they definitely push me, which I appreciate as training partners. So
for
it's always good
sure.
to have someone encourage you and push you.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful part of what we do, right?
Definitely.
How long ago did you get into BJJ?
I want to say it was 2016, 2017. I was
Okay,
actually a domestic violence survivor. So I
right.
was trying to learn a little bit more about how to defend myself. And at the time, I was a roommate with Wu-Tang Pete,
Yes,
Peter
Pete.
Fabella. And he had a garage. And well, let me back up. I first went to Paragon to check it out before I even met Pete. And as a woman with a past, when you first walk into jiu-jitsu and the majority is men wrestling on the ground,
Yes,
sweating, you don't know what's going on. It's super intimidating.
for
And there
sure.
was no other females there. So I kind of backpedaled out of the gym real quick and decided to fight another day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, once I met Pete through a fitness club that was in our town, I was working out with him, and then I eventually became a roommate with him. Him and another friend of mine encouraged me to like take some private classes with him in his garage,
There you
which
go.
sounds creepy to you probably to people who aren't comfortable with that, but it was so much fun.
Well,
It
it
made
sounds like you had built a little bit of a camaraderie with him and in a trust.
totally
So,
a lot of trust with Pete. He is fantastic as a coach and as a friend, and super encouraging, and helped me a lot with jiu-jitsu, and gave me the courage to start. And they had like a white belt. They still do a white belt beginners class, and
yeah.
going from the garage to that, I felt super confident. And after that, it was just done. I was training like twice a day,
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
when work permitted, and that white belt when you're really like hooked in and addicted and injury, whatever. But I was in it.
Yeah.
Um,
You
I loved it.
discovered how jujitsu can become an
Oh my
addiction,
gosh, it was
albeit a healthy addiction. It definitely can be an addiction.
definitely my white belt and blue belt days. I was fully, I want to say, addicted.
Yeah.
Once you get that first real injury though, and you kind of, especially starting later in life, I was like, I need to reconsider my training.
Yeah, the
Um,
approach, right? What's the approach
definitely.
to training going to be?
Yeah. So luckily I feel like I've gained some more healthy habits, along with my training. So
Yeah. It takes
yeah.
time though, right? Like
Oh my gosh.
I can recall my first major injury, and I was a white belt, and I was rolling with my coach, and he was straight from Brazil, barely
Oh
spoke
yeah.
any English, smaller guy, even smaller than Lance, if you can
Oh
believe
no.
that.
I,
We're talking like 5'5",
oh yeah.
135, 140, small Brazilian guy, and he got me in a heel hook
Oh no.
as a white belt, and
Oh no.
I had no clue what a heel hook was. And I was waiting to feel something in my ankle.
Oh
And I have super
no.
flexible ankles. So I'm just sitting there like looking at him.
Chilling.
And he thought I was being stubborn or being, being disrespectful. So
Right.
he
Oh
kept turning. And then
no.
my knee went clunk.
Oh no.
Yep. First in line of many meniscus tears.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible.
Yeah, and he felt so bad. I remember he grabbed me, Gene. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I thought you knew what I was doing. I'm like, no, what was that?
oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Hence why, generally we don't show white belts heel hooks until they get a little
Right.
more understanding of how their knee works and how their ankle
Yeah,
works.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same at our gym. We tend to show those a little later. We're trying to teach them the defense first, right?
Yes.
Normally. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
let my students work on some of the more advanced, concepts earlier so they understand how to defend it.
I think that's super smart.
Yeah, and how it works and how to have control with it.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, people tuning in might be confused and they might think they're listening to my old podcast, The Spartan Underground, since we've been talking about jujitsu
Whoops.
the whole time, but
Not our
it's such a big part of our lives, so it's hard to not bring it up, especially when we have that in common. But I wanted to transition and talk about your love of art, your
oh yeah.
passion of art, and how early in life did that start for you?
I want to say as early as I can remember, even like
Yeah.
I've always kind of been in my own little world, drawing, making my own little stories. I don't know. I want to say like since I was like 4 to 5
So a
ish,
lot of your earliest memories.
drawing like quiet time in my own little world, making my own world, like wizards and uh fairies. And
Yeah.
I loved a lot of fantasy, and I loved drawing it when I was younger, and especially like the Little Mermaid and the knights. I don't know. I loved comic books too. Once I got a little older, and I was hooked
Nice.
into that artwork as well. So probably as long as I can remember, I've always been drawing.
Yeah, for me it was very early as well. And some of my fondest memories, my mom was always still is very creative, and she had a very long career as a professional seamstress. So
Oh,
she helped design, oddly enough, show outfits for the people that show horses.
oh, that's
Yeah,
so
so the
cool.
outfits that the people wore, because at the high level, they're wearing these super expensive outfits with sequins all over
Sequence,
them and
yeah.
uh,
Flashy.
complicated design patterns, everything else. So she's a very creative person, and I remember when I was a little kid, I would ask her to draw for me, and I was always just like so enamored with how she could do that. Like, how is she able to draw this thing and it looks like the thing I asked her to draw? So
Yes.
that was kind of my like, oh, maybe I could do that too, right? And then I
Yeah,
started, to practice and everything else. So that was kind of my introductory was very young as well.
that's pretty cool. It seems to be in the family most of the time, right? Somebody with
Yeah,
the creative gene. Like both my parents were photographers, and my dad did draw quite a bit, but it was like a secret. Like he never
right.
really showed us what he was drawing, and we'd catch him ever so often doodling. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I
but
find with
yeah,
a lot of the artists I have on here, it is that like they'll have a parent who, it might not even be like traditional art in the sense of drawing or anything. It could be like, oh, my parents were both musicians, or it's that creative gene, like what you're
oh yeah,
saying.
yeah, which is pretty awesome. It always I think a creative parent will encourage a child to be creative as well in any way
Definitely.
they want.
Yeah. And I think that might be a big part of why our brains get attracted to jujitsu too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely.
Because,
The creativity with
yeah.
jujitsu was, yeah, I didn't expect that at all. I thought it was going to be more like muscles and like who can control who, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of creativity. It's a beautiful, I'm going to say it's an art form,
Oh,
like
it definitely is.
for sure. Yeah. I love watching jujitsu for hours, and I do record it, and I like making reels with some of the
Yes.
stuff too I've caught. Um,
Did you ever have any experience in any like traditional martial arts in the past? Had you ever tried like karate, taekwondo, any of that?
None. I
Okay.
was a water polo player
Okay.
through high school, and swam in college, and water polo as well. So it was way off my radar. I think the only time I heard about jujitsu was that I heard Lance from my hometown was in a gym of his
Yeah.
own now with jiu-jitsu, and I was looking it up like, what is that? My friend was telling me about it.
Now, the reason I ask that is because being somebody myself who started karate at a very young age. So when I was 10, I started karate and I did that for almost 10 years. And it goes back to the creativity thing and how jujitsu is unique in that because in traditional martial arts, a lot of them, it's like, here's the way you do a side kick. Here's the way you
Mm.
do a front kick. This is the only way. This is the best way. This is how we do it. No room for creativity. No room for, yeah, but I saw this other thing. Can we try implementing? Nope. This is how we do side kicks, bro.
cut and dry by the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, so I remember being at a point when I did make that transition to BJJ from karate, it was like it's like this whole new world. Like I feel like I'm learning again. I'm
Oh
learning new
yeah,
stuff all the time. Like it's so much freedom.
so much freedom. It was super exciting for me to find something that was creative and a sport and self defense.
Yeah.
It was like everything I enjoy coming in into
Yes.
one, and
Everything under
camaraderie too. Yeah,
one umbrella, right? It's all under
yeah,
one umbrella.
yeah.
Now, when we talked a little bit ago, you mentioned comic books.
Yes.
And obviously, this is a very comic book heavy podcast. So it always comes up this love of comics at an early age and how that relates to the love of art or how it feeds the inspiration for the creativity and everything else. So, what are some of your earliest comic book memories that you have?
Oh my gosh. besides like Superman, Spider-Man, I was big into like some like ElfQuest. I don't know if you
Oh
ever heard
yeah.
of that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, Wendy
absolutely.
Penny, Richard Penny, huge
Yeah.
fan. Who wouldn't like elves and fighting in a war for the love of his life and to save his tribe? I don't know.
Yep.
I just the storytelling was great. The art was fantastic.
Well, and that's one of
Um,
the earliest examples of like an independent book, like that they were doing
yes.
themselves, like independent creators.
And I love the independent comic books quite a bit. As much as the typical Marvel and Capcom, the big boys, I guess I would call
Hmm.
them, like the ones that everyone kind of knows. I still enjoy those quite a bit, but the art, it was definitely more the independent comic books that I enjoy, like ElfQuest for sure.
Yeah.
I was also pretty heavy into like Calvin and Hobbes and Peanuts, and I mean like cheesy little comics like that. But it was like the storytelling in short format about like everyday life too. I really enjoyed those.
Right.
But yeah, and I'm still a big fan. On Instagram and the internet in general has been great. Like even back in like Tumblr and MySpace days,
Yes.
I made so many friends that were artists through the internet that I may not have had the chance to talk to. So it's pretty cool.
The original artist, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes, like his artwork, like you mentioned, the storytelling and the motion he could convey and everything. Like, I don't know that mainstream comic artists maybe I'm not giving enough credit because the artists I had on recently also I think mentioned Calvin and Hobbes. So, but you know, comic book art is often perceived like when it pops into people's heads, they are thinking of like Spider-Man, Superman,
Yeah.
Batman, and
Yeah.
that type of artwork. But there's so much that can be taken, especially when it comes to sequential storytelling, like telling a story through the art and the page layout and everything else that can be gleaned from even something maybe more like considered a cartoon strip or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
definitely. Yeah, and also the line weights and the creative the way you make a line, right?
Yeah,
Like in Calvin and Hobbes, it's very not very clean. It's sketchy with the watercolor. There's like more flow and not as like dark shadows, hard light, bright color. It's
right.
more like it's a softer, friendlier, playful. It's playful. I like the playfulness of that line work and art in general.
Definitely. Now, did you find yourself drawn to, pun intended, did you find yourself drawn to artists when it came to the titles that you were looking at? Did you kind of have particular books you liked because of the way the art looked?
Oh, definitely. What artist doesn't get drawn in by a cover, right?
Yeah.
Before they even get a glimpse of it. The cover art kind of really has to speak to you. I was thinking like Black Cat, what's another one? Crom Crom,
Mm-hmm.
Daniel. Like I really liked his cover art, and that got me into being a fan of his. And I realized I was following him on Tumblr back in the day too. And um, who else? Natalie. There's all kinds, but like definitely the comic style or the artwork or like the cover of the artwork is what definitely would draw me into the
Yeah.
story. And if the story was great, that was like a bonus. But even if the artwork was just great, I tended to just enjoy
Yes.
it.
See, that was what I was going to ask you because this has come up on here many times where most of the time when I ask an artist what's more important to them with a comic book, they say, if the art is great and the
Yeah.
story sucks, I will still look at the book. But
Yep.
if
Yep.
the roles are reversed on that, I am
Nope.
not interested.
That is so true. I think that is like the visual parts are so enjoyable. You don't really need the story. The
Yeah.
visuals alone could tell you a story without the words,
Yeah,
which
it's
you
like
still
you
need a story, but
yeah. Well, it's like you said, like it's frosting on the cake if it's also an
Yeah,
amazing story, right?
definitely. Yeah, it's chef kiss if you get both. Like,
Definitely. Now, at what point did you kind of determine that art may be something you want to pursue as far as a career or a part of a career to, get into it, do commissions, do professional work that you're actually getting paid for, like going, through that transition of it just being a hobby versus
hobby.
something that is bringing in a little bit of money here and there. Because I know what's
um,
art is not,
oh yeah,
it is
not very
very
lucrative.
hard. It's very hard to sustain a career in art.
It is hard, especially nowadays with A&I. But I want to say
Yeah.
I've wanted to be an artist since, and I wanted to get paid to be an artist probably since I read Elf Quest.
Okay.
And I saw their art, and they were, I don't know what their living was like at the time. I was a child. I didn't realize the trials and stuff they had to go through. But my parents definitely, as much as they encouraged me to be creative, they wanted me to keep it a hobby. But I had to rebel, and I had to go to
Mhm.
school to be an artist. And I went to Sonoma State and got a degree in art. And then promptly right after that, I did a few wine labels and some work I was paid for
Okay.
commercially.
So that
I
would have
got a
been
job,
kind of your first quote unquote
big.
professional work.
Yeah, I would say so, like, right out of college or kinda, like, in the middle, I was doing some of that. Mm. But I was definitely doing other things. I worked in a hospital, doing, like, medical billing and coding for
Hmm.
several years, and that was definitely lucrative and paid most of my bills, but I was sad. It was not fun.
Yeah, and definitely not in alignment with your passion.
Not at all, and, I would say it definitely caused, depression and, distracting me from wanting to. I wanted to work on my art, and I felt like this job was keeping me from wanting to do it.
Yeah, probably emotionally draining.
Emotionally very draining.
And
Yeah.
art is such a cerebral thing.
Yes, I agree.
Like the problem solving and everything else is like you use a lot of those type of skills and your brain is such a big part of that creative process and the mental energy that it takes to create good art. I don't think
Oh,
people
yeah.
realize like how draining that is. So if you have something else depleting that and then it's like, okay, well, now I have some free time and I'm gonna draw, it's like, I don't
It
think so.
is. No, it is. Yeah, it's super depleting. That I'm glad, other artists understand, but definitely trying to tell your friends or your other non-art people, I can't just do a 9 to 5 and then go home and draw for another 8 hours.
Yeah.
Mentally, it's very exhausting, especially when your job makes you stare at a screen for 8 hours and you're not allowed to get up and move and you have to stay
Yeah.
focused and you have to get numbers. And it was, productivity wise, I was not productive as they had, wanted me to be. But I was, yeah, it was not fun. I appreciate that job and for what it provided for me at the time, but I definitely wanted to be an artist. And um it wasn't until like COVID hit and gave me the courage to kind of like focus more on, I can do this. I
Yeah.
need to just focus on this and put all that energy towards this, the thing I love and want to do and help others with. Um,
It's interesting because COVID was such a negative time and it's often something that I like I have PTSD from like what it
oh
did to
yeah,
my jiu-jitsu academy and everything and kind of,
ours too. Yeah,
definitely almost losing the business and everything
it's so
else after
scary.
so many years and all the work that I'd put into it. But there were also good things that came out of it for people as well, because it was like this, we were kind of forced to reflect because it was a very solitary time. And I think it made a lot of people face things in kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
you're talking about. You had this realization that, well, I can put my energy into this now and make this my focus. And it seems like that was your entrance into really fully giving this art thing a go, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely gave me the mental energy and, peace from other distractions to focus on
Yeah.
making art and getting back into my sketchbook practice and playing with raw materials again, which you get so sucked into digital sometimes just because it's easy.
Yeah.
All the stuff that you get your hands dirty with, you tend to kind of put off to the wayside. So I was practicing inking and just it was fun. I loved it. COVID was terrible, business wise, job wise, money wise, but it gave me a lot of time to practice the craft and
Right.
come back to my love for art.
Now, when we talked about the art schooling, like you did decide to go to art school despite your parents' maybe trepidations with that and everything. Um, did you find the formal art training to be beneficial to what you're actually doing with your art, or was it something like? Because I know a lot of people, especially people that come from that kind of like were inspired by comics and stuff,
Yeah.
and then it's like I know for me personally, like formal art training that I had in college, like, drawing still lives and doing all this stuff
Oh,
and painting and it was not kind of fulfilling that idea of what I had about art and what I
okay.
thought art was. But, I can think of a few things about it that were like good, like from a
Yeah.
fundamentals standpoint. But if you had to do it over again, do you think you could have achieved where you're at without doing the schooling, the formal training?
I want to say 100% yes.
Yeah.
Especially
Especially
with
now with,
online.
yes.
I Everything I learned in art school, I could have watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
And some of those art classes were like chalks, like fingers on a chalkboard for me. Just like, um, I wouldn't say the most positive experience. I got her done and I
Yeah.
did the work, but man, it was not uh fulfilling. It was a grind, if anything, like being forced to do something I didn't want to do, like the still lifes. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like color theory was cool. I enjoyed learning about that and how it mixes with emotions. I had a great teacher for that, so it wasn't like boring, I guess. They made that way more fulfilling for me. But like figure studies, that there's definitely stuff I appreciate learning there, but I
Yeah.
could have like, and then also focusing on a sketchbook practice. That was probably, I got more out of drawing every day from life in my own sketchbook and things I wanted to draw than
Yeah.
sitting in a class having a teacher critique me for my shadows and lights and not getting something done in like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I agree with you.
a lot of it was so like subjective. Like I
Oh
remember
gosh, yes.
I forget what the official title of the class was, but essentially he would have us do like where we were like masking off the not canvas but the paper or whatever we were using, and then doing different geometric designs and
Oh,
like using different colors and transitioning gradients and everything else. And I remember like because I'll apply my whatever I'm supposed to do, like I'm trying to do it the best possible, right? I didn't know exactly what the instructor was looking for, and I'm putting my all into this project, and he'd be like, "No, this is horrible. Like, give me a bad grade." And then the project that I would like half-ass and put no thought into, he's like, "This
yeah.
is amazing. You get an A plus." I'm like, I
That
didn't even try, bro. Like,
is the one you completed like in 1 hour or
phoned it
something, right?
in, right?
Yeah, for it. And I definitely had a few of those where it was just confusing.
Yeah.
Like the ones you put all your heart into, like, yeah,
And I and
I've
I
been there.
and I had the same instructor for my drawing classes that was having me do the still lives and everything. Like I aced that, like A
Oh,
pluses the
nice.
whole time, right? Perfect GPA. Then I get this guy's painting class, like introduction to painting, right? But his way of teaching painting, I'm very process oriented. So I need you to tell me like somewhat like steps to the process. But for him, it was like, no, you just do it. You just
Just
paint.
do it.
Just paint. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like what color should I put down first? Like what? And he would not provide any of that. And that dropped my GPA down because he kept giving me such bad grades in that class. I'm
Right
like,
there.
yeah,
That's terrible. I could have had a similar experience with my it was my painting two class though. The instructor I had was very much the same way. You just do it.
yeah,
Didn't give me critique other than it was wrong. Um and I didn't understand what was wrong. Like the assignments were very like subjective too. And I was like, I don't understand what you want from me. And then
yeah,
talking to her, it felt like head hitting the wall. We couldn't communicate. And I had her for art history too, and it was a very similar experience with her.
yeah.
She almost made me want to quit.
Right? Yeah, it
uh,
sours it for you.
yeah. And it didn't help. I was also distracted with foundry work and welding as well as it was like a minor to
Oh,
my. So I was playing around with welding was super fun, and I got to do all kinds of stuff. And then the painting was felt more forced and frustrating to me than welding and bronze casting. So
yeah,
for a minute there, I almost changed my subject uh, from art, from painting to foundry work and sculpture. So luckily I didn't. I would have been in school a lot longer, but
yeah.
I learned how to weld and I thought that was pretty rad.
Yeah, welding is really cool. One of my black belts is a welding instructor at a technical college, and it's just like I can do a little sketch for that guy and he'll make anything. Like he literally built my cage corner we have at my academy.
That's so cool.
He built my pull-up bars that are mounted to the wall. He even built a bag rack with a trolley system, built the trolleys, everything for the heavy bags, like
That's so cool.
off of little sketches I would do. Like I'm thinking something like this, and then yeah. So that's such an amazing skill to have. I mean, in
Yeah.
your back pocket, right?
Yeah, I like throwing it out there, and I'm kind of one of those like not master of none,
Yeah, yeah.
master of
Jack of all
everything.
trades, master of
Jack of
none.
all trades, master of none.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I've dabbled in a lot of stuff. So, but welding was a lot of fun.
yeah,
Like fire, and you can make things, and I like who wouldn't enjoy
for
that?
sure. Now, going back to this period of kind of placing more focus into your art during COVID, coming out of that and transitioning kind of into quote unquote normal times, where did that take you with your art journey? Because I've seen all these awesome commissions you've done and all sorts of cool
Oh my
stuff.
gosh. I think Instagram, social media helped quite a bit, helping me find commissions and making again more friends. As much as I hate Instagram and having to make the reels to show
Yeah,
my what I'm selling, it definitely helped me push my social media more to reach people for commission work. It also encouraged myself to reach out to other people when I see something and I'm like, hey, let me help you make this look better. Um, I had a couple of friends who were doing like a jiu-jitsu events, like super fights, and some of the stuff they were making, I was like,
yeah, it's
it kind
hard,
of
isn't it?
looked a little rough, and I was like, let me polish it for you,
Yeah,
and that was great. That opened up a whole nother like a lot of jiu-jitsu people reaching out for work to be done,
that's great.
logos or rash guards and stuff. So
Yeah,
um,
the jiu-jitsu community, you know, especially like some of the events and things. I know because my wife is before she started being the full-time admin at my academy, she had a long graphic design career.
Oh,
And
nice.
so she'll look at some of the posters and things and be like, "Oh, I really wish they would hire me to do branding for them or redesign
Yeah,
this."
dude. Yeah, that some of the branding is necessary. Like, I don't think people put much importance into like how something looks,
Yeah,
and it just looks way more polished and professional, and they'll take you way more serious, even
that's
though maybe you're not even that serious,
yeah.
but you look serious.
Yeah, the professional presentation and everything is so important.
It is, yes.
I don't think
Um,
that that's something that often people make the correlation. It's like, oh no, we're just putting on an event and we're going to throw this together in Word and, and,
yeah, right, yeah.
everything will be good. But it's like, it's kind of like when you see a website that's cobbled
Oh,
together and you're like,
yeah,
you see one business that has a clean website and the other one that has the
yeah.
janky one, and
One looks a little
you're
janky, and
like,
then you kind of,
I don't know about this business.
should I even click on this?
Yeah, might get a virus on your computer if you click on it.
Yeah, right. But man, yeah, I was thinking, oh, so back to like COVID and what, during COVID and not being able to train and afraid our gym was going to close. I started drawing a lot of jujitsu stuff too, as well. Little doodles and full on drawings and paintings. Missing jujitsu, like I
Yeah,
did Kimura, and I was drawing people doing takedowns or leg locks, just any little doodle, and then just trying to merge the two, just because I was missing the art
yeah.
of the sport too. So um,
Jiu-jitsu is definitely tricky to draw.
it is.
Yeah,
Without it looking weird or warped too, and trying to make it
exactly.
translate. Yeah.
Well, just
Uh,
drawing two bodies interacting with one another, like whether that's a fight scene in a comic or jujitsu, especially jujitsu, like how everything can be entangled and
oh yeah.
making
Yeah,
out
it's a bunch of
who
right.
is who can be hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And sometimes I've drawn stuff and I'm like, it just doesn't look right, and had to like full on scrap it or, rework it. And I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot, you can relate to that, even with like comic panels and other stuff that you've drawn. Sometimes it just doesn't look right, and you end up just kind of forcing it. And then eventually you either give up on it or you just kind of put it out there.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
but yeah,
the constantly at least I'm getting better about it now, but I was the constantly like start over because I know I can do this better now type of thing after
yeah.
wasting however many hours on something.
Ink and paper, you gotta,
Yeah.
or digitally, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
digitally, I think that's one of the downsides of digital is it does make it so easy to
it
like
does.
change something or start over.
Yeah.
So you're like more likely to do that or drawn to the ability to do that. Whereas traditional, sometimes you'll find a way to make something work
Yeah, like a
because,
happy accident,
yeah,
or yeah, I definitely missed that getting dirty part. I'm working digitally because yeah, you just find yourself like double clicking and
yeah,
or erasing it and redrawing it, and then like it looks too clean now, or
yeah.
you lose a lot of the personalization of something.
That
Um,
actually brings me to something I wanted to talk to you about because you mentioned like getting back more to the traditional and everything and kind of doing that. What do you find the when we touched on some of them, what are some of the benefits and drawbacks of traditional versus digital as far as for yourself personally?
for me, it is like you can't delete it. You gotta rework it. Um, Also focusing more on shapes instead of like lines. You kind of try to find the shadows more easily than I just find that I go back to the basics with traditional, and taking my time finding the lights and darks versus digital. I feel like I'll do a rough sketch and then I'll start filling it in real. Quick with like a fill.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Traditionally, I do like the happy accidents a lot more. You miss out on, you try to force it in digital and it just doesn't look right. Like,
Yeah.
and they have brushes now, like you can add an ink splot or
I know,
something, but
yeah.
it's not the same. And that's what's heartbreaking about Instagram and the attention, the cleaner digital stuff gets than like some of the paintings and watercolors or something that I've done, um, which I don't post anymore.
Yeah.
The happy accidents kind of get overlooked, I guess, or people don't appreciate how you worked around and worked it in, or yeah,
Do you
I
think
don't know.
that's because the digital just conveys better over the digital media being
Or
on Instagram and everything?
definitely
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's kind of
uh,
that sterile, like too
Very
clean.
sterile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend here in town that we made a comic together too for foster kids. We're telling stories about foster kids here and how they met their families or how they started their families or what happened with their
Oh,
families.
very
And
cool.
what I loved the most was getting together with him and drawing.
Right.
And we'd hand draw the panels and we'd clean it up on digitally. But the best part was just talking to him and sketching and laying out the story and the panels together. And I was like, dude, I miss this. We used to do this before iPads and like sit for hours drinking coffee, drawing panels and inking later instead of just going straight to digital. And I'm like, you kids don't even know. All of you sitting here
Yeah.
with your iPads, not to date myself, but I didn't have those when I was at college. I just had a sketchbook. And I would have to take it to school and scan it and then ink it. So it's a whole different world right now for kids
It
and
really is. Yeah. And then, we briefly mentioned the AI,
right.
and that's a whole other kind of evolution and struggle that's kind of hitting the creative world right now.
And it's hitting the jiu-jitsu side of stuff too, like how people are I've seen jiu-jitsu stuff being put up that is AI generated
Yeah.
and it is heartbreaking to me. It
Yeah.
looks terrible and like one of the guys was like, "Who would know? Who would notice other than you?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess just me." But like when AI was first coming around, you notice all like the six fingers and
Yeah.
like the weird
It had
this
a lot of trouble with hands in the
hands
beginning. Yeah.
and random feet sticking out of certain places. But that was like on somebody's rash guard and they were selling it. And I was just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, who's not going to notice that?" And I guess they didn't care as long as it was selling and they seemed like someone liked it. But like all the Studio Ghibli stuff that was going up too was heartbreaking
Really
and made me
heartbreaking. Yeah.
depressed, honestly. And and I had a little spurt where I was like, I don't feel like drawing anything because is who's it's for myself. But at the same time, with all the AI, I was just
Yeah.
like,
Whose AI model am I feeding with my
yeah,
artwork?
no, exactly. And anyone else's, like any of my friends' artwork too. Like who's uploading this into the machine, like Terminator style, is
Yeah.
just gonna take over. So it's a little nightmare fuel for me, especially when I live off of commissions and people who want artwork, and it helps my family, supports my family.
Yeah.
So I guess everyone could be an artist, but I want them to actually make the art and not feed prompts to a machine and get artwork that is very much the same as everyone else's that adds
True.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard an argument recently that it's going to actually make quote unquote real art, traditionally created art more special and valuable. That
I'm
people that
hoping
there's going to be like a renaissance where people are seeking out like I want an actually created, something the artist created type of
I
thing.
would love that.
So that would
I
be
would love that.
I hope that theory is right.
I hope so too. That would be going back to the traditional stuff because I don't know if you haven't done a lot of digital, have you?
I've done a
Or
little bit. I sometimes I do what my friend Dan Fraga calls trud digital.
I like
So
that.
sometimes a lot of times I'll do so I'll do a rough sketch like a thumbnail traditionally.
Mhm.
I'll bring it in, I'll tweak it if I need to make quick changes on proportions, whatever, and then I'll print the blue lines out on the Bristol board and then finish it traditionally.
Then, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that practice quite a
So
bit.
kind of
But like,
leveraging the tools and the rapid nature of being able to make adjustments in the digital realm and then spitting that back out and then finishing it in the traditional manner.
yeah, I love that. I love that 100%. Along with do you do black and white, mostly black and gray, or do you do
You
color
know,
too that way?
so I mainly pencil and ink. I've
Okay.
just been trying to get more comfortable with inking. That's always been something I had a lot of trepidation about over the years.
That's fine.
I enjoy pencil art much more, but I'm trying to push myself into um, being more loose with inking and bringing the drawing to life in ink. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And I'll every now and again I'll ink some stuff digitally just because I can do it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But it's kind of this thing where I my preference always goes back to traditional, like
Yeah.
the feel and everything.
Feel too, there's nothing like you do not get the pencil drag like you do on paper and with paper and pencil uh if you try digitally. Like
Yeah.
they make those screens the matte screens for iPads so it feels like you're drawing with a pencil, but it's nothing
So
compared to
I will
that.
caveat that with I did get something recently that
Oh,
one of the artists that was on here recommended, and it is one of those types of things, but it also comes in combination with a special interchangeable pen tip that they made for the Apple Pencil. So
ooh, that
you,
sounds
and
cool.
the cool part about this one is it's magnetic, so you can take it off your iPad very easily. It's not like a stick-on one.
Ooh,
It's called the brand is called AstroPad, and
astropad.
they call it rock paper pencil, and it's this little set you get that comes with two of the pen tips and then the screen thing. I will say that is the closest to it feeling like actually drawing
Okay. I'll have to try
that
that.
I've come across. So I think if you are gonna do digital, like I would definitely recommend that to somebody to try to get like for those of us traditionalists that really prefer the feel, like to me it's the closest one I've experienced.
Okay, I'll try that. Because yeah, I definitely feel like I prefer my pen to paper
Yeah.
versus the iPad with the pen. It's a weird texture for me.
Yeah.
But my point was like back in the day, I used to like think digital was too easy. Like you're kind of like in college, everyone that was on like Photoshop drawing things. I was like, dude, you're missing out on all the like the fun stuff, the fun getting dirty, trying different things with charcoal, and they're just digitally doing it. And I was like, I don't know. I was like very anti doing
Yeah.
that until like my last year in college, and I had to do it. And then I was like, all right, I kind of see the appeal. But even after that, I would still stick to my sketchbook, traditionally doing stuff, and then uploading it and tweaking it just a little, and then coloring it that way. But even now, I would still prefer to paint and draw more in my sketchbook than
Yeah.
on my iPad.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Especially sketching. Like sketching feels so much better with the
It
actual
does.
pencil on paper and
Yeah,
everything.
I agree. Definitely. And there's something about having a practice in your sketchbook every day. Like you, and I like to date them too. Like this is what I did Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then I can kind of give myself a hard time if I miss like a week of sketching because I could tell in my other work that I'm lacking that warm up or the just the creative juices getting them
Yeah,
flowing on the pages. So, but yeah, have a daily practice in your sketchbook. I think it's
definitely.
fantastic. Even if it's trash,
Yeah.
nobody has to see it. It's your diary basically. You just, learn to fall in love with sketching.
Yeah, don't be so precious with the sketchbooks. I think that's a big thing that keeps coming up and I
Oh my
know
god.
my friend Thomas Patilli, he has a great YouTube channel and he did a whole video on that about just like the sketchbook is for you. You don't have to show anybody. Get in there, like do stuff.
It's dirty.
You
Yeah.
don't have to show it to anybody. Like,
No. Yeah, YouTube is kind of I watched a few where somebody just had like immaculate finished drawings on every page. And I was like, you gotta have like a second sketchbook somewhere.
yeah,
Like there's no way every page looks like this.
no, that's
Like
just the one
beautiful
you're,
wash paints.
yeah, that's just the one you're presenting publicly
Yeah, I was
in the
like
ever curated world of social media.
way to go. You gave me some anxiety about my own work,
Yeah.
but I'm happy you have such a finished sketchbook. It was fantastic, like little gouache paintings on every page. And I was
Wow.
just like, what the heck? And I was like, that's amazing. But at the same time, I'm like, this isn't real. Where's
No.
your other sketchbook?
Yeah. Now, currently, I want to give you a chance to let everybody know, what are you currently working on? Are you still taking commissions and things?
I am taking commissions. I've been getting a lot of dog
Oh,
commissions
wow.
lately. A year ago, I was doing a bunch of jiu-jitsu commissions. Like I think I did about like little cartoon portraits. I drew about like 500 people.
Yeah, I saw some of
Um,
those. Yeah, you did some awesome caricatures and everything.
yeah, quick, little dirty, and I was turning like $5 back then just to get like a whole. I was like, can I do it the whole year? And I
Right.
I did it the whole year and then some. But yeah, I still have commissions open. I'm doing a lot of pet portraits. I'm doing logo work. I am designing some custom rash guards too right now
Oh, very
for a
cool.
few competitors. Yeah. And working vector too. It's not like my favorite, but it is pretty cool once you get everything cleaned and finished, and then you see somebody wearing the artwork you made for them on their rash guard.
Yeah.
It's always a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, and for listeners or viewers who don't know what vector is basically, once it's created, it can be upscaled indefinitely because it's essentially like a mathematical equation that makes up the artwork instead of like pixels and things where if the resolution gets blown up too much, it starts looking like garbage. Yeah,
Yeah, you can't tell what it is.
vector is what, like professional, like graphic designers work in vector and everything because if you're designing something for a billboard but you're using a JPEG type of thing, it's
Not
gonna
gonna
look
work.
like
They're gonna
crap.
return it to you until you get a lot of next
Yeah,
time. But yeah, you're learning that pen tool for new artists if you're going to be in like graphic design or
it's yeah
it's important
it's
to be
it's
comfortable with it.
it's daunting at first.
Definitely. But once you get the hang of it, it's smooth sailing.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap things up here at the end, I want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you on social media, best places to keep up with you, and to how they should reach out to you if they want commission work done, all that good stuff. So the spotlight is yours. Take it away.
Well, thank you. Definitely appreciate you interviewing me. My main handle and place I prefer to get contact is on Instagram under CitrusGoldFish. If you want, you can also email me at citrusgoldfish@gmail.com. Um, those are my main contact information for any commission work, or if you just have a question, that's probably the best way to follow me and get in contact with me. I tend to be on there daily, updating it and trying to reach out to other artist lovers and people who love jujitsu and dogs. I see
Nice.
that you like cats and comics. I
Yeah, yeah.
enjoy dogs, comics, drawing, and
I
jujitsu.
love dogs too. Just don't have a lifestyle that's conducive to having a dog.
Like
Otherwise, we would have one.
the dogs definitely run my life right now. I have
I
two.
bet.
They call the shot.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making the time to be on here today. And I know we barely scratched the surface. I have a feeling that we could talk for hours. So if you'd be down, I'd definitely like to have you back on again in the future.
Oh, definitely. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, hang out with me for a moment while I give everybody my spiel. As I've been saying recently, if you are hearing this spiel and you are already listening to us, you've already found the podcast. So, bravo. Step one, find the podcast and listen. But if you want to give us a like, a share, anything like that, if you're enjoying, you don't have to feel obligated, but it would be cool. And in the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.